Yeah, she really did say that.
Yeah, she really did say that after she just got done Gaddafi and then laughed about it.
We came, we saw, he died.
We came, we saw, he died. The fact that any human being would ever do that. By the way he died, that's some dark.
In the 2016 election, the Russian intelligence was tapped by the Dutch, and the Dutch reported back to our intelligence. They're baffled because they haven't colluded with Donald Trump, but they have tapped into Hillary Clinton's communications, and she's saying that they have. And they want to know why this is, and they came to the conclusion that she's lying about the Russians because she was trying to protect her own email.
Hillary Clinton's downfall isn't just political. It's a historic comedy show. Joe Rogan and Victor Davis, Hanson shred the myth of her inevitability, exposing the arrogance, excuses, and endless failed makeovers. She wasn't the glass ceiling breaker she claimed to be, but a symbol of an elite class confusing entitlement with destiny. From losing the easiest election ever to haunting politics post-expiration date, Hillary's the perfect case of ambition, without authenticity, crashing hard.
Just shows how desperate they were to keep Trump out.
Here's the important thing to me. What I learned is that the Russians were successful.
This is wild. They would do anything.
I don't think there's any way to read that report and not conclude they accomplished what they set out to do.
They just felt like this is a tool that we have, and let's use it. Let's just say whatever the we have, say anything.
And to help Donald Trump, and they succeeded.
They repeated that lie. Completely lost respect for Obama when he repeated that lie a few days before the election, knowing it's false.
They had an objective to sow discord and divisiveness within our society at large.
It's a little troubling because if people are fed nonstop propaganda, it is like mass hypnosis.
After 2016, he and Hillary, she was calling him a Russian agent, and he was calling her Crooked Hillary. Everybody thought that given she had destroyed 30,000 emails and the devices on them, and they were under subpoena, that he would have the DOJ go out. What did he say? The first thing he said, she's suffered enough. People went to him and said, you've got to fire James Comey, the director of the FBI. He tried to stop.
If you're digging this, hit subscribe and tap the bell. Hillary's career is like a sequel no one wanted, but Hollywood kept greenlighting. Joe Rogan and Victor Davis Hanson don't just poke, they go for the kill, tearing apart her contradictions, half-baked reinventions, and knack for failing upward. She was billed as America's Iron Lady, the inevitable first woman president, an unstoppable machine. Instead, she's the political equivalent of a Windows update, forced on us, promising better, yet always making things worse.
Is that the 2011 thing where Obama allowed people to use propaganda against United States citizens?
Hillary Clinton is and has been an outstanding public servant.
What was done then under Obama, effective repeal of it, was called the Smith Modernization.
She was a great Secretary of State for me.
At the time, the media and media control was seen as the linchpin crux of winning the Cold War, piping in pro-U.S. media influence.
Joe Rogan, never one to hold back, calls out the absurdity of Hillary's whole vibe. She's tried every political costume: progressive fighter, centrist pragmatist, folksy grandma, feminist warrior, purse hot sauce carrying every person. None stick because there's no real authenticity. She thinks downloading Spotify or dabbing on Ellen will make folks forget her Wall Street speeches. She's the politician who takes image advice and turns it into a personality overhaul, only to look more robotic halfway through.
The day of the election, I think they had some crazy odds of Hillary winning. It was like in the 90%. We watched it from the Comedy Store. We did a podcast from the Comedy Store called the End of the World podcast. What was most fascinating was the podcast was over, and then we all went to the bar, and on the television, Jake Tapper was just seriously bummed out talking.
Victor Davis Hanson takes it deeper, seeing Hillary not as a bad luck victim, but as entitlement's poster child. Her career rode Bill Clinton's charisma, but when she had to stand alone, she was like a karaoke singer dumped on the Grammy stage. The gap between her self-image, seasoned stateswoman cheated by history, and the public's view, candidate who couldn't beat a novice outsider twice, is massive.
It's election denialism. Unique? No. In 2016, in that interregnum between the election and the December certification, almost nightly, Hollywood actors went on television and they appealed to the electors who were constitutionally bound to reflect the majority vote in their state. made a direct appeal to be what we call false.
Joe Rogan cracks up at Hillary pitching herself as democracy's last hope. This is the woman who ran against Donald Trump, now president, with every advantage: media, Hollywood, elite backing, a former president husband, a fat campaign fund, and Obama's machine. And she still lost. If democracy depends on her, it's got bigger issues than we thought.
Really just overthrowing a government, installing a friendly one. It's like it's been going on since they could. And back then it was way easier to pull off because there was no internet where you could pull up Hillary Clinton video from more than a decade ago and go, look at her. She's pretty MAGA. You could put a fucking red hat on that lady and she'd be standing on that stage right next.
Victor Davis Hanson doesn't just call her out for losing. He nails her excuse parade. Every defeat's someone else's fault. Russia, Facebook, sexism, James Comey, Bernie Sanders, even the weather, anyone but Hillary. He flags this as an aristocrat's trait, never owning up. In her world, she's always the smartest, so failure's impossible. If voters ditch her, they must be dumb, tricked, or hateful. It never hits her they might just not like her condescending, fake, power-hungry vibe. Joe Rogan jumps in with his blunt style. Finding it hilarious, she branded as a women's champ while trashing Bill's accusers and defending him through scandals.
These key swing states vote to reflect their vote. After they failed to do so and Donald Trump was declared the winner, we had major figures on the Democratic side saying he was not legitimately elected. Who were those people? The House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries said he was illegitimate. Hillary Clinton said he was illegitimate. Jimmy Carter said not only was he illegitimate, but he was elected through Russian agencies, which was demonstrably proved false by special process.
This is the same Hillary claiming to defend the marginalized while cuddling up to Wall Street and corporate bigwigs. Joe Rogan can't get over the absurdity of her flying private to climate talks, then lecturing middle-class folks on carpooling. The double standards, so blatant it's almost art. Victor Davis Hanson digs into the core issue. Hillary embodies the political class's arrogance. She's the elite thinking leadership's their birthright. Her career's not about ideas or reform, it's about power. That's why she flip-flops, why her slogans feel committee-written, why she never sparks real excitement. Hanson paints her as a dynasty queen awaiting coronation, only to find the peasants uninterested. Joe Rogan mocks her media game, loving scripted, safe interviews. But when unscripted reality hits, the mask slips. That awkward fake laugh, rehearsed lines, botched humor attempts. It's like a robot short-circuiting. Joe Rogan notes Hillary doesn't lose to opponents as much as to herself. She's her own worst enemy. Every image tweak makes her look more like a shapeshifter with no core. Victor Davis Hanson, with his historical eye, goes hard, comparing her to failed figures who mistook entitlement for fate. She thought her name, connections, and resume guaranteed the presidency. But America's no monarchy. Voters, despite splits, reject that entitlement stench. Hanson says her flop wasn't just personal. It symbolized a political machine's collapse in 2016, with her as its face. Joe Rogan keeps the laughs coming every few months. She resurfaces with new takes, critiques, or gripes, like an uninvited party guest bragging about her old big house days. No one asks, but she chimes in, acting like her advice would have fixed everything. Rogan dubs her the most stubborn political ghost haunting long after her time.
Doesn't mean that Hillary would have been a good choice.
No.
Either. She was a terrible choice. She's a corrupt politician, one of the most unlikable people that's ever run for office. They were trying to get people to be supporting her just because she's a woman. This is going to be her history. Women, ladies, I stand with her. So there's all these women that have this blind allegiance towards this career politician, completely foolish. She's been foolish forever.
Victor Davis Hanson argues Hillary's biggest flaw is missing the cultural vibe. She banked on identity politics, elite nods, and media hype to win. She missed the populist surge, elite anger, and authenticity hunger, even if messy. Donald Trump, now in the Oval Office, nailed that instinct better, not by genius, but by gut, burying her consultant-crafted campaign. Joe Rogan circles back to her legacy's absurdity. She's the only one to lose to Trump in 2016 and might lose again. The Democratic Party treats her like a wise elder, but Rogan sees her as political kryptonite. Her appearances tank enthusiasm, spike resentment, and make independents roll their eyes. Want Democrats to lose? Put her back on the ticket.
Trump met Vladimir Putin in Anchorage, Alaska last week. It was an outreach not to Zelensky or Ukraine or Europe, but to America. They think Donald Trump is a strong leader, but also he is more malleable about seeking a peace settlement rather than whatever it takes attitude of the Biden administration. So he can appeal to Donald Trump, put an end to it on Russian terms. Donald Trump was not the author of the failed reset. The 2009 Geneva debacle where Hillary Clinton pushed that reset button and we were supposed to be friendly with Russia. Basically, we said, you should be democratic, you should be democratic. So they were loud but carried a twig rather than spoke softly with love. And if there is a peace settlement, it will be the work whether the left likes it or not.
Victor Davis Hanson sums the irony. Hillary spent decades prepping for a presidency that never came. She had donors, connections, think tanks, a resume, and a machine thinking history owed her the crown. Instead, it humiliated her. She's the Cleopatra of U.S. politics, clutching grandeur as her empire burns. Hanson frames her as a warning. Entitlement without authenticity guarantees failure. Joe Rogan closes, mocking her endless comebacks. Teasing runs, cryptic interviews, podcasts, books, talk show gigs. She won't accept her moments gone. To him, she's an aging rock band touring on nostalgia, playing old hits to a shrinking crowd, thinking she's still stadium headlining. The audience yawns, scrolls, wondering why she won't exit. Hanson's final jab. She's not just a failed politician, but a monument to an elite class thinking it could bend reality.
If you compare Watergate to what Hillary Clinton did with Russian collusion, where she actually hired a foreign spy and paid him, which is illegal, to interfere in a campaign, and then had him tap a former campaign aide, Charles Dole, for fake Russian smears that he got, and then collaborated with Lukashenko, and they created this whole file, and then she seeded it among all her contacts in the State Department, people like Victoria Nuland, and then they went into the FBI, who was paying him. It was 10 times bigger than water.
She believed destiny was hers, but it had other plans. Instead of the first woman president, she's the one proving inevitability's a myth and arrogance has an expiration. The roast leaves her lingering on relevance's edges, insisting the world would have been better with her as queen. As America moves on, Joe Rogan laughs at her absurdity. Victor Davis Hanson dissects her entitlement, and together they shred her myth, leaving only a failed dynasty's echo and a reminder. The deadliest political weapon can be yourself. Her tragedy? Mistaking persistence for popularity. Each reappearance, with recycled lines about broken ceilings and misunderstandings, feels less like a message, more like a rerun no one asked for. She's not evolving, she's repeating, hoping the same act flips the result.
Different states.
And Anderson, it is hard to think of a political comeback that is actually more significant than, when I'm tempted to say Richard Nixon, but that really falls short of what Donald Trump has achieved.
I think for a lot of people, that was the end of trust in mainstream media. That was the first nail in the coffin. Those, like, you were so wrong.
Victor Davis Hanson peels back her history validation obsession. Losing wasn't just political for her, it was personal humiliation. She felt entitled to a trailblazer's legacy, and when voters denied it, she never bounced back. He says she spends her days crafting excuses, not just for comfort, but to rewrite her story for future books. Every excuse, every blame shift, every speech on what went wrong is less clarity, more legacy control. She's trying to write history live, hoping repetition turns failures into misunderstood wins. Joe Rogan won't let her off that delusion. No one's begging for her return except her. Democrats prop her up sometimes, but know she's a liability. For every loyal cheer, 10 groans from voters seeing her as old news. Rogan calls it the irrelevance curse. she acts like politics' centerpiece when she's the punchline. Hanson's last cut is brutal. Over-preparation doesn't guarantee wins. With decades, resources, and inevitability's illusion, she lacked authenticity. He warns she's the prime example of ambition outpacing likability. Ultimately, she's not remembered for barriers or standards, but for losing the easiest modern win and refusing to fade quietly.